Oh, hey everyone. Chris is back. Does he realize that I drank his beer yesterday?
Yeah, I did, because I looked for it.
Damn.
It's only 9 a.m.
Yeah, he's fine. He'll survive. I think. Anyway, we're here to talk to you about the DNC, the RNC, and the long road to November, which actually isn't that long anymore. But you know what, Chris? I have a feeling it's going to feel like it's lasting forever.
Well, based on 2016 and 2020, which has been about a decade so far, it might last forever with the long nights. This is an interesting place to be. I mean, I think that a lot of folks on the right that I've been speaking to are generally feeling like 2 weeks ago they would have described their looking forward to this race as clenched jaw, grim determination, marching to battle kind of thing.
Right.
Like the scene before William Wallace gives a speech, and you're just kind of looking across the field, and you see all the English dudes, and they got like horses, and you're like, I've never seen that many horses in my life. I got a mule.
Roy Moore is leading the
They
pack.
got armor, and you're like, I got the blanket my wife made me. And that's it. But then he comes out with paint on his face, and he gives that big speech. And then you're like, well, geez, I mean, I may as well show them my private parts and kill them all because we're going to win this day. Don't do that first part for any of those things, actually, except for women.
Yeah, don't do most of it. But
don't take any cues from Scotland. But there's a different feel right now. There's an energy that's been put into this. In these last 9 weeks, as like we might actually start to see from the Trump group a real serious campaign, almost somewhat resembling return to normalcy like we saw last night.
Yeah, I think what we saw is Republicans are actually really getting are going to really get a convention boost because, and then may or may not show up in polling. I suspect it will.
If polling's ever released again.
Yeah, right. Or, yeah, exactly. But what I do think just happened is Republicans realized that they can really go hard and lean into some of these cultural issues and it'll help them. And there's sort of like an appetite in the country for people who are going to stand up and say, you know, what's happening in these cities is ridiculous. And by the way, they all have Democratic mayors.
And what we saw over the last evening, especially in the last 4 days, has been a reach out to conservatives. It's the opposite of what Republicans usually do.
Yes.
They don't. Yes. Usually Republicans scream and yell and raise the rafters about taxes and spending and all those things in defense, and then they whisper to you and wink at you about abortion and transgender identities and all these other different civil rights and religious rights. They just whisper it. This was very different. Larry Kudlow was up there for a little bit. There were a couple of Republicans talking about things that mattered. You know, Mitch McConnell was up there. But in general, it was a very socially conservative convention. And also, we saw in the last night a real outreach that had been going on for most of the convention to women. Suburban women, black women, white women, mothers, people with families, those that the Trump coalition is worried about, and try not to alienate, but they would not let a change from their message. They weren't going to alienate alienate the right to please the suburban women, which is very different from previous conventions.
And thank God, I think they're realizing finally that that's how you assemble the right coalition, and literally thank God. But that's a really important point because what they did at this convention that I think previews the Republican message from now until Election Day is basically saying, you should feel comfortable voting Republican. You should feel comfortable voting for Trump if you are a woman, if you are black. It's also not the what do you have to lose message. It's these policies are better for Black Americans. These policies are better for women. But when you have people like Kayleigh McEnany on the stage, really likable, well-spoken, beautiful woman saying, I'm a woman and I support Donald Trump. Here's why. They're trying
all I actually heard was double vasectomy the entire time.
I'm sure. But this is what Republicans usually do. They like throw a few female speakers out into the mix and they talk about lower taxes and that they're proud Republican women. But to actually, like to your point, dive deeper into those messages and make that a priority of the convention messaging, I think that shows what we're going to see from now until November because it was so galvanizing on the right over the last week.
And it really was a coalition because it wasn't just a list of Republican politicians in waiting. It was actually, which is usually conventions are, like, let me groom you, let me add to your medal collection so you can become the next, Barack Obama for the right. This was a gathering of ordinary people that will really change the way conventions are done forever, I think. And with that, with the people they reached out to, the broad coalition, people from Texas, people from Utah, people from Kentucky, people from safely red places they don't need to actually reach out to, they were able to put folks up there that represent a broader coalition. So as opposed to the normal thing of like, oh yeah, Democrats, I see you have minorities and women. We have some, but less.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, look at all these people who actually support these policies all over the country from different walks of life, and we're gonna show everyone out there and see what happens. And I wouldn't be I would be very surprised that did not gain votes that are not traditionally Republican.
Yeah, I agree, and that actually may not show up in polling, and that's something we witnessed in 2016.
There's no more polling.
Yeah, well, if the polling is done. But going back to the DNC, the Democrats also tried to make Republicans and swing voters feel comfortable in the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
They went light on
We
some
like
of
America.
yeah, right. Like we didn't hear
sometimes.
We didn't hear a lot about like Medicare for all that good stuff, all the goodies. But what we did hear was former Republicans saying they were voting for Joe Biden. How will the Democrats respond to this, I think, crystallized Republican messaging, the emergent Republican message after this convention? What is the Democratic strategy going forward?
Well, so far, it certainly hasn't been. They ran on return to normalcy while speaking to an empty, creepy auditorium.
Build back better.
Something that Ben was talking about this morning, the publisher, was that we've seen the obvious signs that Kamala Harris is in the driver's seat of this campaign.
Yesterday,
when Donald Trump and Mike Pence are whooping on Joe Biden, they send out Kamala to respond to what the accusations. And I don't know if you watched her speech. I mean, the only Google alert I had last night when I went to bed around 4 a.m. was Kamala Harris eviscerates Donald Trump. And I watched it, and she's like, Donald Trump says Joe Biden doesn't have a plan. And the teleprompter was going too slowly. I don't know why they retape it. Joe Biden does have a plan. And the plan is Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Is that the response?
Mm-hmm.
And also, as Ben pointed out this morning, usually I like to take his ideas as my own, but he might listen to this and catch me, is that where's Kamala Harris going to help them in this kind of battle? If things start to shut down, like Wisconsin starts to become unattainable, his window narrows. Michigan, maybe.
Yeah.
His way to victory narrows, and more popular votes in New York and California, Kamala is not going to help you.
Well, right, not there. And what they have to do is in some of those swing states, they need, like Wisconsin's a good example, they need to have turnout in Milwaukee. They need to have black voters come out for Joe Biden, which should be less of a problem for Democrats with Joe Biden than it was for Hillary Clinton.
Black voters like Joe Biden more than Kamala?
Oh, I think so, probably, right?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I mean, he was that's how he won the primary, and
yeah,
there's a lot of pushback too.
But Cory Booker and Kamala were in the race, and they
were there, and they didn't get that.
Yeah, I mean,
Joe, everybody likes Joe.
He's at his best, he is likable, but it's of course a veneer for.
We all have an idea of Joe, which is not quite the reality of Joe.
I think the same for Joe.
And nice, and you can live on these ideas as opposed to reality if the person who you have the idea about is not actually on TV or outside of their basement or anywhere in your life. So like, just kind of like when Hillary Clinton, like in 10 years, people look back and you remember her? Yeah, she was fine because she's gone. Might be more like 30 years. Joe Biden's been gone since he left the White House.
Yeah.
Really. So everyone's like forming their own ideas of who he is, despite that he's alive. He's just in a basement in Wilmington.
Chris has a theory that Biden is a hologram, which is why he wouldn't hug Kamala Harris.
I think it's possible.
I'm not ruling it out.
I hate to judge before all the facts are in.
Yeah, the facts just aren't there yet, but I think it's a plausible theory. Unsubstantiated. Right. But I think as Republicans are feeling really galvanized right now, and reasonably so, coming off of this convention, there are also some obvious, serious hurdles for Donald Trump winning this presidential election. Those would be the economy, the pandemic. What do you think?
The biggest hurdle for me is that Fauci's in the White House and that the lanterns of D.C. are now strung with Antifa leaders. But I don't know if that is what reaches moderate voters.
Yeah, I don't know if it is either. But do you seriously think that Donald Trump can win in this environment? Is it going to be a matter of the Democrats looking so weak when it comes to violence and looking also like maybe they don't have a plan that's going to rescue the economy or rescue public health?
Typically no, because Donald Trump was sailing to re-election, and then the Wuhan Chinese COVID-19 coronavirus hit. And decimated the U.S. economy, he may get out of it in some ways because 2021 is going to be rough.
Yeah.
But 2020, for some reason, like the guys in Wall Street just have decided they're not going to get a hangover if they don't stop ripping cocaine.
And what the hell
like,
is going on?
Going and going and going, despite the fact that the United States economy is not very healthy right now. That combined with unbelievable embrace of riders, like in the last 3 months, the Democrats have ceded law and order as a Republican issue. Like now, like just a few years ago, Democrats were ruining the day that they had ceded America's founding and patriotism to conservatives. Ruining that day. How dare they? Why couldn't they believe? They could not believe they'd given away religion to conservatives. They just gave away law and order. And in the last week, they gave away
their vice president is a cop.
They gave away sports.
Yeah.
What? Donald Trump's like up there on the last day, like, oh, get some sports content up. And they're just doing rah-rah like Donald Trump, the president who will bring you sports.
Yeah, the UFC guy. It's like, I got on the phone with Donald Trump.
Like, people have nothing to do. Basketball and other things on the television are a rare escape. It's not reruns. And Barack Obama's applauding when the NBA canceled for a day. It's like, I liked that.
Yeah.
I liked watching that. And everything sucks right now.
Right.
I can't believe they've ceded law, order, police, safety, public safety.
Fun, happiness, joy.
And now fun and happiness.
They're gone.
It's the malpractice by the Democrats for Donald Trump to win in the middle of the Chinese Wuhan COVID-19 coronavirus is unbelievable.
Speaking of malpractice, I just realized I had my water bottle in the shot for a long time. So you're welcome. We are amateurs. Chris, I know you have to go because you are busy.
I'm going to be drunk at a steakhouse.
And important.
4 a.m. all week.
You've earned it. So just finally, Republicans, this convention was a very positive one. Democrats kind of tried to have a positive and negative one. But does this message, this uplifting message of, America, the best is yet to come, as Kimberly Guilfoyle would say, is that discordant with the experience that a lot of people are having around the country? Is that going to work, or is that going to backfire? What do you think?
I think my feeling is it's going to work. People respond to positivity. And when Jimmy Carter coming out and giving the speech, he never actually said malaise, but giving the speech, this is a long, hard slog, and America has seen better days, did terribly for him.
Yeah.
People wanted optimism. If in the 70s Ronald Reagan could reach the American people with optimism for the future, then that is still the message. However, because I live in this disgusting swamp, I am flying out of here today, and over the next few weeks we'll have an opportunity to visit Michigan, visit California, and possibly a few other states. So I won't be able to report back to you other than simply a gut feeling. But in general, uplifting messages, even in really difficult times, are what wins the day in politics.
Chris, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy your travels. Wear a mask.
I have one actually. My friend gave me one, and it's deeply, deeply offensive.
Is it
Made in America, presidential seal.
Wow, all right.
I mean, personally, if I was in charge, I would not put my brand on masks, but...
Thanks, Chris. Happy travels. I'm going to leave the water bottle in a close shut just because everyone I know enjoyed it so much. Have a good weekend, everyone.